let's talk about how to do an I-cord bind off. So the first thing that you do when you're on the row that you're going to bind off on is you need to cast on a few stitches. So I'm going to do a 3-cord I-cord bind off. That's a pretty common one. You might do 4 stitches. You probably wouldn't do 5, and you probably wouldn't do 2. So I'm going to say 3 or 4, depending on how wide you want that I-cord. So you could cut this yarn and leave yourself a tail to weave in. I don't like to weave in tails, so I don't like to cut the yarn. So I am going to just put the last stitch from the previous round and the first stitch of the new round, I'm just going to put those as close together as I can, and I'm going to cast on a backward loop, and then I'm going to tighten that up real good. See how I'm just leaving hardly any slack there? And that is just so I don't have a big old loop where I don't want one. So I'm going to do another backward loop, and then another backward loop. Oh, that was an ill-fated backward loop. There we go. Alright, I didn't explain that very well, did I? Let me show you how I do that backward loop. So I take the yarn between my thumb and my first finger, I twist it around to the back, and that is the loop that I set on the needle. And I'm going to tighten that first one up. Here we go, another loop, turn it to the back, and tighten that one up, and then one more, tighten that up. Alright, then I'll just use, well no, that's not the right size. I guess I better use my other end of the circular needle. I just do everything on circular needles. I own double pointed needles, but I like to lose them, so I have like 3 of each size. Okay, so when you go to make this first row of I-cord bind off, you are going to knit 2 stitches, so it's the last one you just cast on, and the one right next to that, and then you have 1 more stitch that you cast on, and then this is the first stitch of the row that you're binding off. So you are going to knit those together through the back loop. And from what I understand, that just makes it a little bit neater, going through the back loop. Then you're going to take these 3 stitches you just made and you put them back on the left needle. Then do it again. Oops, the pattern is always knit until you get to the last stitch, and then you knit it together with the stitch you're binding off. And of course, when I say the last stitch, I mean like if you cast on 3 stitches, knit 2. If you cast on 4 stitches, knit 3. Then you put them back on the needle. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this up close and personal. Okay, so we're going to knit 1, then we're going to knit 2, and then we're going to knit this one through the back loop together with a stitch that I bind off. So with each of these 3 stitch patterns, I'm binding off 1. Knit, knit, and through the back loops. And what that gives you is a nice little bind off like so. And to show you on a finished one, it ends up looking like this. So you just have a nice little vertical row of stitches. I'm sorry, that's horizontal. A horizontal row of stitches. And you may be able to tell where I've started and ended this. There is a little bump where you graft it together, but right here, that's my start and finish line. So it hides pretty well, but I have another video that shows you how to do that grafting.